Hello and welcome to 5-Minute Math. Today we are looking at the first grade concept of geometry, specifically how we can compose or build two-dimensional shapes by using other shapes, and we'll do it in 5 minutes or less. So we have a little toolbar on the screen. We're going to use that because I want to use this square that I have. And I'm just going to copy this square, and I'm just going to paste it, and we're going to see exactly what we can do with this square if we make a copy of it and we paste it. I'm going to just drag it over here, and you see that now I've got two squares next to each other. And hopefully you see that if I put these two squares next to each other, I have built a rectangle. If we kind of ignore that middle line, we'll see that I have a rectangle there, and I'm going to make it a little bit longer. So if you put two, even three squares together, guess what? Now you have a rectangle. Now it's a slightly longer rectangle. How can I build that back into a square? Well, I'm going to keep copying this square, but what I'm going to do is I know that squares have the same sides. And so right now I can't make a square because it's too long and skinny. But I'm going to put a second row here. Now right now I don't necessarily have a regular shape, but if I put this last one in, and I think most of you see I'm going to put this last one in right here. Now I've got another rectangle. It's kind of a long rectangle. So if I do one more row, that is going to help me get my big square. So I'm going to build a big square by putting this last row right here. And we're going to add another one right here. And I've got one piece left. And we can see that we've got one big square. Let me move that over just a little bit. Make sure it's in the right spot. And so if you get 9 squares, you can build a larger square. You can also build a square. Let me show you, since we're talking about building squares. You can also build a square if you use 4 squares. So watch this. I'm going to do 4 squares. So these numbers, 9 and 4, the next one is 16. These are numbers that make squares. So this is how we can use squares to make larger squares. Let's see what happens when we put together some triangles. So I have a right triangle here. It's a triangle that's got a square corner, and I'm going to make a copy of it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take that copy and I'm going to flip it around. And you are going to see something interesting happen. So here's my copy. I'm going to drag it over here. I'm going to flip it around. And then I'm going to bring it back over here. And then I want to make sure I match it. So I'm going to move it a little bit. And I need to flip around just a little bit more. And you see when I put these together, look what shape I have built. I am building a square. So if you take two right triangles that means you've got two triangles that have square corners. You can either build a square or a rectangle, depending on whether the sides, these two sides are the same length or whether they're different lengths. So I built a square because I had two right triangles that had two side lengths that are equal. Now let's see what we can do with some rectangles. So we end with a rectangle here. I'm going to take my rectangle and I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to move the copy down here below it. And hopefully you will see that if I put these two rectangles together, I'm going to get something pretty special, and it is going to be a square. Now, it doesn't work with every single rectangle. You need to make sure that when you have rectangles, to make two of them go into a square, your long side needs to be twice as long as your short side. So when you put your two short sides together, it equals a long side, and you have a square. Because remember that squares have equal sides, and so you need to make sure you have equal sides. And if I wanted to make another rectangle, I could just drag two more over here, and you'll see that I'm going to take this rectangle and I'm going to just extend it. So I'm going to build another rectangle off here to the side. If you wanted to make a really long and skinny rectangle, you can even take two more rectangles and move them over here on this left side. And so you can just keep adding rectangles to make additional rectangles.